Blog Talk Radio.
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2014. It is New Year's Day, 2014. This is Nature of Reality Radio. Riding solo with you for 2 hours is your host, Andrew Fisher, yours truly, broadcasting from the suburbs of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, like I do every Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Well, I guess, as usual, I might as well start with the news, and then we'll get into what 2013 was like and what I expect for 2014 at the end. But on to the news on the start of this new year. Oh, feds consider vehicle location tracking in new cars. Oh, boy. I can't wait till I get Eddie Craig on. He's hopefully going to come on the 22nd, January 22nd. Should have come on week one, but he had a little bit of a problem. So first show I did, he couldn't come on. So said he would like to come on. We'll be talking about this, and because this total violation of our right to travel, to track the way we travel when we're not in commerce. We're not driving unless we're in commerce. Driving, transportation, operate vehicle, those all have legal definitions that are commerce specific. But they try to say we're doing it in a commercial capacity so they can issue us tickets for transportation laws, which only apply to commercial drivers. Well, hopefully we'll figure out a way to get out of this. I guess the simple solution is buy old-fashioned cars that hardly have any electronics in them so you don't have to worry about being located. Hopefully they won't hook it up in some way that'll make it impossible to remove it without making the car inoperable or unusable. Yeah, because operate, that's a commercial term. But moving on to other subjects here. Connecticut gun registration photo foreshadows gun confiscation. Subtitle looks like Weimar Germany. Well, if you lose the Second Amendment, you lose everything, people. Right to bear arms saves all the other rights because the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms was given to us by our founding fathers and the Creator so we can protect ourselves from tyrannical government. And Connecticut, because of Sandy Hook, total government stage false flag event there. That was staged to take our right to own guns, and Connecticut, not surprisingly, is a state that would have the strictest gun laws after that. And a lot of people are buying guns now because they fear gun confiscation. Hey, they say you shouldn't have fear. Well, some fears may be justified, and one of those fears is the fear of your government taking your right to bear arms. So you can't take your right, but they're going to do any tyranny possible in this day and age because they want global totalitarian government, the New World Order does. But don't give up your guns, folks. Don't even register. You don't have to. Anything to keep it out of your government's hands. Now let's see. Is the government stockpiling iodine in preparation for Fukushima meltdown? And in red here it says U.S. government orders 14 million doses of potassium iodide. Well, Fukushima, I have no doubt that Mother Earth caused the earthquake. But I also have no doubt that the Fukushima plant disaster, now that was a staged event. Kind of makes you wonder if the government did time travel technology to look into the future to see an earthquake and figured out a way to exploit it by blowing up the Fukushima plant and using the earthquake as a way to go along with it. David Icke did an interview on some foreign channel where he gave great information exposing how the Fukushima disaster was staged by New World Order forces. You can YouTube that, David Icke, Fukushima. You'll find something. You'll find the video where he talks about it. It's very, very compelling. I'm sure the earthquake wasn't caused by HAARP or anything like that. Talked about that with George Kavasilis in my interview with him. He said that the Earth's axis did turn a bit before the earthquake happened, and the earthquake was a consequence to the Earth's axis shifting direction. So it doesn't surprise me there that Mother Earth truly was the one responsible for that earthquake, but the fact that they're selling up on iodide, the government is, makes you wonder if Fukushima is being protected as we're being protected from Fukushima to the extent that we're told we're being protected, and they're lying to us about how deadly the radiation is. Well, I've also heard from a couple of people claiming to be ET contactees. Sunfire of the Galactic Federation of Planets is one, saying that the higher dimensional ETs who watch over us are actually doing their part to try to keep the Fukushima disaster in check. But I think it's best not to believe that. I acknowledge that she said that, but don't go about your life thinking, oh, we're going to be saved by aliens. We don't have to do anything. No, it's good to get iodine for yourself and to keep yourself protected from that disaster, which was too much of a gift for the New World Order, as David Icke said in that interview. There had to be something to it. Let's see what else we got here in terms of news. How to address growing poverty, more confiscation by government. How to address growing poverty. Well, we've all heard this saying, I'm not my brother's keeper. Well, folks, we are our brother's keepers. Because the New World Order, in order to impose their will upon us, they rely on us thinking, well, I don't care about him, he's not my I'm not his keeper. Well, care for your fellow man a little bit more, people. Don't obsess about it to the point where you're going to give everything to everybody, because, believe me, people will take advantage of you if you're very nice to them, especially when they're really greedy and are seeking things that they can't get easily for themselves, like addictive drugs and whatnot. So, say, yes, I am my fellow human keeper, my fellow human. I will help when necessary, and that attitude, simply having that attitude, can enable you to go a long way in terms of addressing poverty. And, by the way, if anybody wants to call in, I have a feeling there won't be many listeners today anyway, because it's New Year's Day, everybody's doing something. But I will be doing the show anyway. I got to get in the practice of doing 2-hour shows by myself if I ever need to do it again. So if anybody wants to call in number is 646-478-4747. Call in and talk about whatever you want. I spend a lot of my free time doing research. I'm willing to listen to anything anybody says, even have some skeptics call in. Thinking about maybe getting Michael Shermer on my show, greatest skeptic on planet Earth, as some would think. And I said I want to bring different people of different walks of life together. Who says I can't let skeptics come on this show? Have a debate with them. That would be really interesting. It probably would increase my audience a bit. You know what? I think I'm going to do that. Contact Michael Shermer or some other skeptic and ask them if they want to come on my show. And I'll make it clear to them I'm not going to start a full-fledged argument. I'll keep my tone of voice down and cool and just try to present counter-arguments with you on whatever it is. I'll bring up the subjects that I'm pretty sure of. And if we can't agree, can't agree. But I got to maybe get a skeptic on this show. But anyway, getting back to the news. Let's see what here. Duping the left. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio and President Hillary Clinton. Bill de Blasio is a Democrat who works for banksters and globalists while spouting progressive gibberish. Well, I don't really have time to look into this story, but since it mentions Hillary Clinton, let me make it clear to you guys that there's a very good chance Hillary will be running for president in 2016. She is an Illuminati grand dame, higher on the Illuminati ladder of authority than Obama or even her adulterous husband, Bill Philly, when she got that medal, that ceremony at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. It was an insult to have her there, and I enjoyed heckling her. But looks like her candidate might be Chris Christie, that tyrannical globalist governor of New Jersey. I don't really watch local news. If I did, I probably know more about him because I live in Philly. But he, from what I've heard, he is a pretty globalist in attitude. Even Jesse Ventura said he would probably be a candidate the New World Order would want as a puppet. And I don't know who would be worse, Hillary or Christie, but we'll worry about it when it happens. And I would not recommend voting because you would be wasting your time on a couple of political puppets who take orders from private special interests while global totalitarian government, and they're really pretending to care about you. And moving on, how will the economy improve in 2014 if almost everyone has less money to spend? It says here in the subtitle, is the U.S. consumer tapped out? Well, Greg Prescott of In5D called into his radio show yesterday, talked to him for the first time in a while. It's great to see he'll be having his show back on. That was a nice conversation we had, but he wrote an article about what happened in 2013, and I'll get to that in a moment, on his N5D website recently, and covered a lot of things and what to look towards to the future. And he cited something in there about the dollar becoming dead in 2014. Well, the dollar is already dead, folks. It's lost so much of its purchasing power, and other countries don't want to use it. For all intents and purposes, it is dead, but as far as becoming worthless, well, money's not really worth anything. It's only worth what we decide it's worth. But since we follow the illusion of money having worth, when it becomes defunct, there's a good chance it'll be totally defunct in 2014, where there'll be a global currency. And I don't really necessarily know if gold and silver is a better idea than getting survival stuff. I mean, some people say, "Hey, we'll send it to 5 the Earth. Don't worry." No, folks. I choose not to think like that. I'll probably talk about that a little bit on this show, but don't think we're going to send everything's going to be great because we're going to send it to 4D or 5D. We don't have to prepare. Well, I don't know. It's good not to think like that because you'll lose touch with reality if you think like that. And we may be forced to stick around on this planet at 3D level, even if it means acting like we're survivalists. So I think buying survival stuff, food and packaged food and canned food and even things to barricade your home with take priority over buying gold and silver. But it wouldn't hurt maybe to get a little. If there is a global currency, you could use the gold and silver to get that. But having survival equipment may be a better idea than gold and silver. It's a point of view issue. But I guess we'll get on with what happened this past year. Well, biggest story by far, the Edward Snowden saga. I mean, to see that guy was able to release that information through the help of a journalist, Glenn Greenwald, who actually cared about acting like what a journalist is supposed to act like. It was the straw that broke the camel's back, as Alex Jones said on his show this past Sunday. And it revealed that the NSA does not stand for no such agency. It really does exist. And that stuff coming out showed our government doesn't care about our privacy. And is it really that obsessed about security if it insists on doing bad things and taking away liberties? Common sense would say no. And telling you, spying on us with the way they do, the NSA does, and I'll get into the NSA a little bit today, mark my word. I got reason for that. But the NSA, for all intents and purposes, is the true government of America. Some might say it's NASA because what's up in space is far more significant than what's down here. I don't know. But NASA does hide a lot of stuff from us, but the NSA, because they spy on everybody and have records to everything and can change everything just by releasing information that in some way discredits someone, they're the real shadow government of America. Even Alex Collier said that in one of his talks in the 90s. This was before the Telecommunications Act of 1996. He was saying the NSA was the real shadow government. But it makes sense that since national security has nothing to do with the security of the nation, that they would call themselves the National Security Agency as a brainwashing tool when they know it has nothing to do with the security of the nation, but people are gullible and dumb enough to believe that. But the Snowden story exposed that, and we know we're being watched, and we know the government doesn't care about our liberties now. So people just need to wake up, and that woke up a lot of sheeple. Thank you, Snowden. Thank you, Greenwald. Other great story of 2013, Obamacare. Why do I say great story? Well, what I mean by great, obviously, is that it was something that was really eye-opening. Obamacare, designed to bankrupt all the benevolent insurance companies. There aren't many benevolent insurance companies, but there are some that try to be. And Obamacare will get rid of them, force everybody to buy insurance that will force you to cancel your existing plans, force you to cut down hours of employment employers will have to do. And boy, I feel bad for all the people who are going to have to work 30 hours a week and will not be able to get anything accomplished in terms of paying bills, simply because 30 hours a week will not cut it. But I'm concerned about Lindsey Williams in an interview on the Alex Jones show said, folks, you should have protested this about the cut down in the Obamacare from 40 hours to 30 hours a week to be able to get out of Obamacare. And that might hurt some people. But Obamacare is a tax designed to collectivize everything. One woman at Socrates Cafe, which is a group I attend, who used to live in Russia, said it feels like Soviet Russia now with Obamacare. Another guy there referred to Obama as a clown and explained how it's going to cost a lot of money to the point where you won't be able to afford anything with Obamacare. And one other guy who chose to not believe what was happening said, "Give Obama time to fix it." Oh, please. Obama serves the globalists well. He serves the Rothschilds well. Andrew Bartz said his soul was taken from Saturn. Well, in many ways, Saturn is malevolent. It's also a soul harvesting and incubating device of sorts. That's one of many things that NASA hides from us, that the Illuminati uses Saturn to harvest souls. And they took Obama's soul from Saturn. Andrew Bartz said, glad he made that clear, because a lot of people don't know a lot about who Obama is. Not surprisingly, his real name's Barry Soetoro. God only knows where he was born. And I'll be talking about this a little next week with Alfred Weber, who did some talks on his YouTube channel about Obama's true identity and everything. I think I'll discuss this whole thing about Obama's soul being harvested from Saturn and see what he says. Should be an interesting talk there. But point is, do whatever you can to stay off of Obamacare. It is designed to impoverish us and bankrupt us. And the big insurance companies decided to work together to create this. Work as a collective whole to impose tyranny upon us through a tax, which government does not have authority to impose. I'll get into what a government has authority to do later on in my talk. But getting on to the big stories, Syria. Oh, the war in Syria that did not happen. Well, yeah, there is a war in Syria now of sorts, but because they want to topple Assad, because Assad is not allowing for the New World Order banking system to exist in Syria. He's not serving them the way they want, so they want him out, but he doesn't want to leave, and he's fighting back. So to think that he actually was responsible for those chemical weapons attacks, it's pretty asinine. He would not do that. It defies common sense. He would not do anything that would justify letting outside forces that are not allied with Syria come in and try to topple Assad. And that would help start World War III, because Syria's allies like Russia would have to come to Syria's defense. The same size. The Illuminati controls both sides of the war, but they would get the outcome they want, which would be World War III, which would allow them to justify global totalitarian government, which, of course, we do not want, now do we? So that thing with Syria, the fact that their plan to lie about who staged the chemical weapons attack backfired. People fell for it with Iraq in 2003 with weapons of mass destruction lies, but they didn't fall for it this time. And I think that is a little bit of a good sign that people are waking up. So those are the big stories of 2013. And since I got into that, I want to wait till the end of the show, as I said, to get into what happens in 2014. But I think I might as well take the opportunity on this show, since I'm by myself, unless someone chooses to call in. Not that I expect anyone to, because nobody is going to be listening on New Year's. I see I have a guest in the chat room, Leanne. Hey, feel free to chat. It's great to see you here. Call in if you want. Won't be much of a crowd today. But I want to talk about principles of liberty. Little paper here in my hand. When I ordered a book of pocket constitutions to give the constitutions out community to people, I saw they gave me this little pamphlet here. It says Principles of Liberty at the top, and it lists 28 things. I think I'm going to get into some of this and comment on each of the things that I give here. Principle of Liberty number 1. The only reliable basis for sound government and just human relations is natural law. Natural law. What is natural law? Well, I actually typed that into Wikipedia today. Not the best source, but hey, some people that know what they're talking about do write things on Wikipedia and cite their sources. So I guess it's okay to use that as a source for this. Natural law. What is natural law? Well, it's the law of what nature is supposed to be like. And I guess they mean nature from the benevolent envisionment of nature that we all have, of calm, peaceful, tranquil, everything in harmony. And I'm guessing that by natural law, they meant the true harmony of nature where everything sounds great and everything looks great, and simply sitting out in nature in solitude and letting information come to you will help expand your awareness. And I'm sure that's what they meant by natural law with this one. Moving on, number 2, a free people cannot survive under a Republican Constitution unless they remain virtuous and morally strong. Oh yeah, there are people in the truth movement who are virtuous and morally strong that want to make sure that the Constitution, as it exists, will stay the way the government is supposed to, the way the government takes an oath to defend it. And while the truth movement remains virtuous and morally strong, it appears that the sheeple, I know some people say that's a bad phrase, but just to grab everybody's attention here, I need to use it. They are not remaining virtuous and morally strong. The only people they're remaining virtuous to are the tyrants in government and the New World Order globalists who control them. Not that the sheeple act like they understand that there's a New World Order and act like they understand that there's tyrants in government. They're the ones that will not be free people, and they will not be able to survive under a Republican Constitution. We need to wake them up, and wake them up in a calm, peaceful tone of voice. If you can't wake them up in a calm, peaceful tone of voice, because they'll just laugh at you as you talk, or whatever, then they're one of those people that can't be woken up because their belief systems are too rigid. But try not to be one of those. It's not good to be lost in the Matrix. I was lost in the Matrix myself until about 2009. And then I spent a lot of my free time studying stuff just to wake up in a short period. And it's led me to quitting this radio show. Wake up, people. Moving on to number 3, Principle of Liberty. The most promising method of securing a virtuous and morally strong, stable people is to elect virtuous leaders. Oh yes, leaders who you know will not double-cross you. Problem is, many people don't know what goes on behind the scenes of the New World Order. A lot of satanic cults like the Skull and Bones Society at Yale, where world leaders like both George Bush's and John Kerry were bred and groomed to be world leaders. Those are not virtuous leaders who we want to have. And the leaders have to be elected by us, not through voter fraud like Mitt Romney actually won the last election, but Obama, they committed voter fraud because Obama was their puppet of choice. You have electronic voting, that's certainly possible to commit voter fraud. We got to try to get rid of electronic voting, unless, of course, we can prove with absolute certainty that the people counting the votes are not trying to rig it. And Ron Paul should be the president now. He would be the president now had they not committed massive voter fraud to get Mitt Romney on the ballot. Except Ron Paul. Ron Paul did win the Republican primary, but all the polls that were showing that though he was winning were meaningless to the mainstream media. So the media ignored that and let Mitt Romney win, and did not let Mitt Romney win when Obama was cheated in by people who wanted him. My God, we need to be able to elect virtuous leaders. So principle number 3, very important there. Glad they got that right. Elected. If they're not elected, we don't want them controlling, or should I say even protecting us from our rights unless we elect them, because then we know that they're behind us. Number 4. Well, I was looking at this earlier. This is quite questionable. Without religion, the government of a free people cannot be maintained. Well, religions do teach benevolent things. But from what I've researched, religions were actually created by the Illuminati centuries ago to suppress human consciousness. Because as I've explained countless times on my show, keyest thing to understand, you are infinite, space and time are illusions, reality is holographic. Every small part of this hologram is just a small representation of the greater whole. Change that small part, you change everything, albeit at small extents. You are infinite. You can affect reality simply by observing it. The double-slit experiment in Europe in the early 20th century showed that. The movie The Matrix is a perfect metaphor for how reality works. Mainstream science says it, but they won't necessarily endorse it. And realizing that you are infinite means there is no higher power above you, but religions say they are. So I'm thinking religion, well, not necessarily a good idea to take up because it will suppress your consciousness. The founding fathers understood that a society needs to have freedom of religion in order to take freedom very seriously. So they gave that in the put that in the First Amendment to make it clear that they understood that a natural right, a creator-granted right, is the right to choose your own religion. So, number 4, I'm going to have to put a question mark next to that. Even though religion is key to freedom, it's not necessarily a good idea to take it up because it suppresses your consciousness. And Santos Bonacci saw a presentation on astrotheology that he gave, showed how religions are based on astrology. It's just a copy of it, and if you expose that, you expose the lie that is religion, he says. Wow. It's pretty, it's a sensitive subject, but it has to be addressed. So moving on, number 5. All things were created by God, therefore upon him all mankind are equally dependent, and to him they are equally responsible. Well, I guess that answers my question. The people who made this principles of liberty thing were following a religious code of sorts. Not to say they have any malevolent intentions, because they're probably oblivious to the fact that religion suppresses consciousness, but I would substitute the word God with the Creator or infinite consciousness, preferably infinite consciousness, because even the Creator sounds like a deity of sorts, and I don't like to use that, but we are, upon infinite consciousness, equally dependent. Well, of course, we're dependent on it because we are it, and what everybody else does affects you, even at small levels. And to him, they are equally responsible. Yeah, if you're infinite, of course you're responsible for everything, because everything you do affects everything to albeit at a small extent. So, related to that, number 6, all men are created equal. And let's make it clear, the word men, that is meant to include everybody. Even the founding fathers, the same rights, and slaves should not be controlled by other men. Yes, the founding fathers were slave owners. Thomas Jefferson was one, but he made it clear, I did not like being a slave owner. I just couldn't get anything done in this day and age without it. But I believe it's wrong. And slaves should not be slaves. Women deserve the same rights as people, but because of the time, they use the word men. I'm guessing that. I mean, maybe they realize we'll just put men in because it just resonates with the time, but we know all along that we're referring to all humans. So we're all created equal. All humans are created equal is what it should say. And if anything, really want to get metaphysical, everything is created equal because everything is one consciousness. But moving on to the principles of liberty, number 7, the proper role of government is to protect equal rights, not provide equal things. Yes, we need to understand that the government is there for one purpose, to exert by any force necessary to protect the rights and property of every person that's under the auspices of that government. If they keep providing us stuff, they could eventually take advantage of us. And we need to take responsibility on our own, of course, and not ask for all sorts of agencies like the DEA and the NSA and the CIA to be created, because we can't just do things ourselves. And all those agencies, they shouldn't exist. There should be just one government, legislative, executive, judicial, and no many sub-agencies like the ones I just named, because that will cause government to get too big, which is what was not supposed to happen. It was just supposed to be there to protect our rights. I mean, you could get a big government to protect rights, but not to do all sorts of things that will be able to infringe upon other people's lives, which is something we never, as individuals, gave government the authority to do. I'll be getting into that later on, but moving on to number 8, men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Well, no duh. The Founding Fathers understood that when they put the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. And those are the rights that we need to keep. And as I said, if we lose the Second Amendment, we lose all of them, and we won't be able to keep them anymore. So those rights are granted to you by the Creator. They cannot be given to you. The Founding Fathers understood we're not giving anybody any rights. We're just going to state them here so people understood that these are the rights that were granted by the Creator. And unfortunately, those rights are being taken away bit by bit. With that being said, moving on to number 9, to protect man's rights, God has revealed certain principles of divine law. Well, that's another one related to the whole subject of religion, that, well, the religious law meaning public policy made by the people who are deciding the policy. There is actually no universal definition for law. It's really means public policy is the way that it should be stated. I'll be getting into that with Eddie Craig if I get him on the 22nd. But there are some divine laws that are good, that are designed to protect your rights, no doubt about that. But when it comes to religion, I don't think I'm the one who should be supporting it, because I've seen reason it's not worth supporting. But anyway, moving on to number 10. The God-given right to govern is vested in the sovereign authority of the whole people. Well, oh yeah, I can certainly say that. I mean, sovereign, I don't think is the proper word, because sovereign, the only thing that can be a sovereign is the creator. You're not a sovereign if you can have authority over other people. Well, I mean, that makes you a sovereign, but nobody can have authority over another free man. No free man can have any authority over another free man, is what I should be saying. So therefore, nobody can be a sovereign. But they make that clear, the sovereign authority of the whole people. Yes, we need to work as a collective whole, because if we work as a whole, we can protect the rights of others. And as I said before, the one and only purpose of government, the reason it was created, was to exert by collective force necessary to protect the rights and property of all the people under the auspices of that government. Moving on to number 11, the majority of the people may alter or abolish a government which has become tyrannical. Yeah, because we created a government, we have authority to do that, but do people want to do that? There's a lot of people that are remaining loyal to the government, which makes that a hindrance. Number 12, the United States of America shall be a republic. Well, of course, we don't want a democracy, because democracy, a pure democracy, that's majority rule. That's two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. We don't want that, so we have a republic where the minority gets to voice in on things. And that's the whole idea of, if we don't have authority to do something as an individual, then getting together in a group does not grant that authority any better, because as individuals, that was an authority we never had, so getting together in a group doesn't grant it any better, unless we're doing it to protect the rights and property of another individual group that's having its rights threatened. That's what a republic is, and that's what the United States was supposed to be. Number 13, a constitution shall be structured to permanently protect the people from the human frailties of their rulers. Well, of course, that's what the Founding Fathers did, but the problem is people are letting the government infringe upon their rights. It's not so much that they're letting them, they're not letting them, they're just not doing anything about it. It's the problem. People aren't doing anything about it. So even though a piece of paper says government can't do this, does not have authority to do this, the people are just going to let it happen anyway until we wake them up. Moving on to number 14, life and liberty are secure only so long as the right of property is secure. Yeah, your property, if they take your property, you'll lose everything, I guess. Like I said, if they take your guns, you lose everything. If they take your home, well, you may still be able to walk around with a few things, but even then, you'll not having property. That's going to be a problem for you. It should be noted, owning a home is not a right, it's a privilege. You have to work for it to earn one. You have to do your part to make the money, to be able to live in your own abode, and other people are not responsible for you in that regard. Once you have your own property, then you have your life and your liberty, and it will be secure as long as you keep your property secure. Number 15, the highest level of prosperity occurs when there is a free market economy and a minimum of government regulations. Well, government does have authority to regulate interstate commerce. The problem is that a lot of things we do that are not commercial, when they charge us with a crime, they're accusing us of doing it in a commercial capacity where they do have some regulatory authority, and that's how they can charge us with some sort of a crime. And even though the government has authority to regulate interstate commerce, it's not supposed to be a total infringement. And it's not, in many ways, it's not even supposed to punish someone for not following the regulations. Maybe fire them, but not necessarily punish them with prison or anything. It's by regulate, set the rules, set the policy of how things are supposed to be done. And if you don't do that, well, punish you or fire you, but not like give you a death penalty or send you to jail for long periods of time or anything, unless you actually commit some sort of an actual crime. That's, in regards to commerce regulations, a regulation, but in terms of law that's not in commerce is nothing that other people are not affected in. So it's good to have government not regulate the free market economy, because then they won't be able to control our lives under the guise of commerce easily, because they don't even have the ability to control commerce easily. It's a complicated process, I know. So if you don't understand it, I certainly don't in many ways. All I know is that the statutes and other things that are considered in public policy are written in a way to make us seem like we're doing things in a commercial capacity, so they can charge us with something in regards to the law. So I guess we'll get off of that for a bit and get into number 16. The government should be separated into three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. The one that makes the policy, with the people's consent, mind you. The executive branch, which is supposed to have authority to, among other things, veto a bill that has been passed by Congress. And then we have the judicial branch, which is supposed to, of course, decide the cases, hence the word judge. Although I believe the word judge, no, I'm thinking of the bench that a judge sits on. If you look up the word bench in Latin, it's the bank, and that gets into the whole thing about how the judicial system is being corrupted, where they're again doing things in the name of commerce to control us. But other than that, that's one problem with the judicial branch. The executive branch, president's getting too much power. When the president signs an executive order, it's only supposed to apply to the executive branch of government. But the executive orders that Obama and Bush have signed, and some other presidents before, have extended out of the executive branch. And that's not supposed to be happening. The president's getting too much power. And the legislative branch, well, the House and the Senate, they don't seem to be respected much by Obama. But even they, to a great extent, follow a policy of we do what we please. We'll write what we please. We don't care that if you think that just because you can't do this as an individual, we can't do this as a group. And so we're going to just pass the policy anyway. And we're just going to violate your rights in the process. We certainly don't want that. So we have three branches plus a lot of sub-agencies, as I said, like the NSA and the CIA and the DEA and the NRO, and the list goes on and on and on. It should just be separated into those three and be left at those three and not give anyone too much power. Even Thomas Jefferson talked about how he doesn't want the judicial branch to be the ultimate deciding factor in deciding what the policy will be discussed among the three. But now it seems like the executive branch is the one that's getting most power. For a while, some people thought it would be the judicial branch that would have the most, but just want to keep it as much of a checks and balance as possible. The government has only one job: to protect our rights. Number 17, a system of checks and balances should be adopted to prevent the abuse of power. Well, I already run into that, so don't need to discuss any further. Number 18, the unalienable rights of the people are most likely to be preserved if the principles of government are set forth in a written constitution. Well, they shouldn't have to be written down. I mean, as I said, the Founding Fathers put it there to protect our rights even better, because they understand that the government will try to abuse it, saying, who says you have these rights? Well, they want us to be able to say, you took an oath to defend this. This is what you must follow. But people will violate the Constitution anyway if they want to be tyrannical. So, number 18, I mean, that's a no-brainer, but in these times, we're being suppressed by a lot of tyranny, and we got to try to stop that. I guess it's better not to use the Constitution as a way of saying we have rights to do things, because the Constitution doesn't give you the right to do anything. It just states rights you already have. So, say my rights were given to me by the Creator, or say my rights were given to me by infinite consciousness. Of course, then you got to get into explaining how you know everything is infinite consciousness. And I already got into that earlier on, so I don't feel like repeating myself. So, I guess when you're done listening to this, you can go back and listen to how you know your infinite consciousness. But I guess I'll move on here. Number 19, only limited and carefully defined powers should be delegated to government, all others being retained by the people. Yeah, well, that one and only power to exert by collective force necessary to protect the rights and property of everyone that's ever lived. And all the others are kept by us and the state governments. The federal government is one of limited powers delegated by the state governments, and the state governments are ones of limited powers delegated by the people. Therefore, the federal government is one of limited powers delegated by the people. But we don't seem to act like we understand that. Many of us do. Many of us sheeple. Hate to use that word, but I use it anyway because to make a strong statement. Not discriminatory, but you have to understand that as long as there's sheeple around, it's going to be hard to break free from tyranny, so they need to be woken up. Wake them up gently. Don't get in their face. You have to respect the fact that some people are sensitive, but try your best to wake them up. It's one of my New Year's resolutions. Try to wake up more sheeple. Just got to keep my attitude and my demeanor cool, or it may cause problems. So, moving on to number 20. Efficiency and dispatch require government to operate according to the will of the majority, but constitutional provisions must be made to protect the rights of the minority. Yeah, all that stuff about not getting into groups does not grant authority any better than you already had as an individual. That's what that's all about. Number 21, strong local self-government is the keystone to preserving human freedom. Yes, that strong local self-government is you as an individual, realizing that your other governments, be they state, federal, local, or even a global government, if we have a council of elders of some sort, you have to understand that as an individual, you have the same rights that they have, and they don't have any more rights than you. So you are your own self-government. Act like you understand that, and you are infinite consciousness. Infinite consciousness is my self-government. That might be my new motto sometime. But moving on, number 22, a free people should be governed by law and not by the whims of men. Well, at number 1, the only reliable basis for sound government and just relations is natural law, and as I said, I'm guessing they meant that natural law means the calm, peaceful, everybody has rights, everybody has peace, no disharmony or anything. That's the kind of law they mean. It should not be on the whims of men, but on natural law. Number 23, a free society cannot survive as a republic without a broad program of general education. Well, the education system we have is not decent. And I don't know if the people writing number 23 realize this, but I'm sure they must. I'm sure they were woken up out of the matrix to understand that our public school system is really a prison system for kids and is not designed to educate kids on anything important. The vast majority of the stuff they teach has no basis in life. And it's better to get your kid homeschooled. Shame a lot of countries like Germany are demonizing homeschooling, and all sorts of laws, or should I say public policies, are being passed by governments saying that if the parents are deemed not fit to parent, then their kids can't be homeschooled. I mean, so the education system, I don't mind having an education system, but it needs to teach kids important things like tyrannical government and how you are infinite consciousness and metaphysics and things like that. Not this garbage that has no basis in everyday life. Moving on to number 24. A free people cannot survive unless they stay strong. Well, that's a no-brainer, so I don't think I need to discuss anything further. 25. Peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. Of course, so that means that, I guess that answers my question, what they believe natural law is: peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations. We don't want any alliances to become entangled because things might get complicated. I mean, and things are complicated now because we have a lot of alliances that are actually no more or less allied in reality than the countries that are not allied with them, because those countries that aren't allied are still controlled by the same special interest. That's how the Illuminati control system works, where even the countries that say they are enemies, like in America, people consider the Chinese and the Russians to not be our allies. Well, in a sense, they're not, in regards to what the politicians believe in government. But the problem is, people controlling those governments, or the puppet masters to the puppet politicians, they are controlling both sides. So That's an entangled alliance if there ever was one, I think. Number 26. The core unit which determines the strength of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect its integrity. Well, they sure seem to be trying to do what they can to make the parents of this society think that their kids belong to the state, trying to force them to go to public schools and run commercial ads saying kids are owned by the community. They make that sound nice to grab people's attention, when in reality it's all just one great big illusion, because kids belong to the community really means kids belong into the state, and the state is controlled by forces that, among other things, sacrifice children in satanic ceremonies. Yet that's what the Illuminati does, mind you. What do we have here? Number 27, the burden of debt is as destructive to freedom as subjugation by conquest. Debt. Yes, our financial system is totally debt-based. It's totally untenable because they loan us money. The banks, the private banks, not the government banks, the private banks, they loan us money that does not exist. It's just numbers on a screen, and charge us interest on those loans. The fact that they charge interest makes debt and inflation unavoidable, because the money is printed out of thin air. The interest money is printed out of thin air or typed out of thin air. It doesn't come from anything. This is a Ponzi scheme. And we are paying our debts with money that does not exist. So because of the interest, it means that debt and inflation will become unavoidable, because there will always be someone who cannot pay his debt, and that can only increase with time. Sure, they can keep interest rates artificially low to boost the economy temporarily. The problem is it's only temporary. In regards to our financial system, cognitive dissonance is the real reason why so many people don't take notice to this financial problem that we have, where our debt-based system is completely untenable, because debt and inflation is unavoidable. They just go on with their life, not thinking, oh, nothing's going to happen, I'll just keep using money, things are only not going to get worse in my time. Well, worry about your friends and family in the future, people. I mean, they'll live in the Great Depression or Weimar Germany. So, wake up to the finance system. We all have to live with money, unless we live with a tribe in a rainforest or something, but many people don't want to do that. So don't get into debt. Things are going to get complicated. But at the same time, we need to find a way to get to a gold standard currency system, or no currency, where we exchange an energy. That is assuming we attend higher states of consciousness where the only currency is energy. But assuming we stay down here, got to keep it gold backed. Money has to derive its value from something, like gold or silver. Derivatives, those derive their value. What is a derivative? Well, Winston Shrout probably explained it better than anyone. He basically said a derivative is what people are going to get as payment if they decide to keep working. In this case, it's just numbers on a screen, money, not backed by anything. That's probably the best way to describe a derivative. And as long as the power elites use derivatives to put our financial system in total chaos, our debt is globally is over 2 quadrillion. The vast majority of that is in derivatives, and that's what they want to use to bring our economy down and consolidate everything. Hopefully, our financial system will be able to fix itself. How should it fix itself? Well, we can either protest it on a massive scale to force them to change it, or it will just come crashing down, in which case it'll have no way. It'll fix itself by forcing there to be a gold-backed currency. We don't want that, because then we'll have to live in a Great Depression of sorts for a little bit. So, and let's not think that aliens are going to come and save us. It may be possible that they will, because we're the only planet in the Milky Way galaxy that uses money, so says Alec Collier. The rest of them trade in actual energy of sorts, or just create things for other people if it's high in a state of consciousness, I guess. But we have to live with money, so don't be stupid with it. We signed a soul contract with it. But wake people up to it. So number 28, the last one on my list here. The United States has a manifest destiny to be an example and a blessing to the entire human race. Well, it's talk about that in 1776. Founding fathers would certainly say, oh, that's what it's going to be. That's what we want it to be. But nowadays, the United States is being viewed as the Roman Empire of the modern era. We invade other countries more than any other planet Earth. And that's pretty much a dead giveaway that we're the Roman Empire of the modern era now, isn't it? And people don't understand that because they think we're living in the land of the free, the American people do. And we need to wake people up that America, even though it's supposed to be a beacon of freedom to everybody, it's not being treated as such. And they're trying to turn it into a police state as a stepping stone to global totalitarian government. So hopefully the age of Aquarius, where the Roman Empire of the modern era, there was the old Roman Empire, now the Roman Empire of the modern era, the United States, it will collapse and people will be free. That's what Indigo Child Montes De Stefano said in a presentation I saw on the In5D YouTube channel. Really an Indigo kid. He only speaks Spanish, though, but that presentation was in English, so totally worth listening to. I recommend anybody watch that. But that concludes my list of the principles of liberty. I hope you all got something out of that. And again, if anybody wants to call in, the number is 646-478-4747. And moving on, got a little bit of a story here that shows just how much of a joke the NSA is. Turns out I filed a Freedom of Information Act request about a month ago, hoping to get information from the NSA, and I want to share this with all of you because it shows just how much of a joke our government is. The Freedom of Information Act that I filed with the NSA, I wrote here, thanks to Edward Snowden, the whole world knows that the NSA has provided information about people that was obtained through programs such as Boundless Informant, Bull Run, the Comprehensive National Cybersecurity Initiative, Fairview, Main Core, Muscular, Mainway, Prism, Room 641A, Special Collections Service, Stellar Wind, Tailored Access Operations, the United States Intelligence Community, the Utah Data Center, and X-Keyscore. I want documents that contain all of the information that is specifically about me that the NSA has obtained through all of the 15 programs I mentioned in the last paragraph. Well, the NSA decided to insult my intelligence. I made a couple of YouTube videos about this, by the way. It's on my YouTube channel, which is Fan of 2012, F as in Frank, A-N-O, F as in Frank, the number 2012. Is where I upload my videos if anybody wants to check this out. It was actually uploaded to Infowars.com. I put it on Planet Infowars, my video and its addendum, and Alex Jones and Company were nice enough to upload that on the Planet Infowars tab of the news section on Infowars.com, but where I did those videos. But anyway, I want to read my response here, and it's the response I got in its entirety. Dear Mr. Fisher, this response to your Freedom of Information Act FAOY request of November 18, 2013, which was received by this office on November 27, 2013, for all information about you obtained through the 15 programs that you named in your request. A copy of your request is enclosed. Your letter has been assigned case number 75862. Please refer to this case number when contacting us about your request. For purposes of this request and based on the information you provided in your letter, you are considered an all other requester. There are no accessible fees for this request. Your request has been processed under the provisions of the FOIA. You may be aware that one of the NSA CSS missions is to collect, process, and disseminate communications or signals intelligence information for intelligence and counterintelligence purposes. NSA is authorized to engage in these activities in order to prevent and protect against terrorist attacks, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, intelligence activities directed against the United States, international criminal drug activities, and other hostile activities directed against the United States. The roles and responsibilities that the NSA exercises are delineated in Executive Order 12333 as amended. As you may also be aware, there has been considerable coverage of two NSA intelligence programs in the press media. Under Section 215 of the USA Patriot Act, as authorized by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, NSA may acquire telephone metadata such as the telephone numbers dialed and length of calls, but not the content of calls or the names of the communicants. Under Section 702 of FISA, with appropriate authorization, NSA may target non-U.S. persons reasonably believed to be located outside the United States for foreign intelligence purposes. Excuse me. Under the FISC authorized Section 215 authority, NSA cannot review any metadata unless strict requirements are met, i.e., the data may be queried only when there is a reasonable suspicion based on specific facts that a phone number is associated with a foreign terrorist organization. Likewise, under Section 702 There are strict controls approved by the FISC to help ensure that no U.S. person is targeted, and FISC-approved minimization procedures to ensure the protection of any information concerning U.S. persons that may be incidentally acquired. Although these two programs have been publicly acknowledged, details about them remain classified and are protected from release by statutes to prevent harm to the national security of the United States. To the extent that your request seeks any information on you in relation to NSA intelligence programs or in relation to any specific method or means for conducting the programs, we cannot acknowledge the existence or non-existence of such information. Any positive or negative response on a request-by-request basis would allow our adversaries to accumulate information and draw conclusions about NSA's technical capabilities, sources, and methods. Our adversaries are likely to evaluate all public responses related to these programs. Were we to provide positive or negative responses to requests such as yours, our adversaries' compilation of the information provided would be reasonably expected to cause exceptionally grave damage to the national security. Therefore, your request is denied because the fact of the existence or non-existence of responsive records is a currently improperly classified matter in accordance with Executive Order 13526 as set forth in subparagraph C of Section 1.4. Thus, your request is denied because pursuant to the first exemption of the FOIA, provides that the FOIA does not apply to matters that are specifically authorized under criteria established by an executive order to be kept secret in the interest of national defense or foreign relations and are properly classified pursuant to such executive order. Moreover, the third exemption of the FOIA provides for the withholding of information specifically protected from disclosure by statute. Thus, your request is also denied because the fact of the existence or non-existence of the information is exempted from disclosure pursuant to the third exemption. The specific statutes applicable in this case are Title 18 U.S. Code 798, Title 50 U.S. Code 3024I, formerly Title 50 U.S. Code 4031I, and Section 6, Public Law 8636, 50 U.S. Code 3605, formerly 50 U.S. Code 402, note. The additional denial authority for NSA information is the Associate Director for Policy and Records, David J. Sherman. As your request is being denied, you are hereby advised of this agency's appeal procedures. Any person denied access to information may file an appeal to the NSA, CSS, Freedom of Information Act Appeal Authority. The appeal must be postmarked no later than 60 calendar days of the date for the initial denial letter. The appeal shall be in writing, addressed to the NSA, CSS, FOIA, Appeal Authority, DJ4, National Security Agency, 9800 Savage Road, STE 62484, George Meade, Maryland, 207-556248. The appeal shall reference the adverse determination and shall contain in sufficient detail and particularity the grounds upon which the requester believes that the determination is unwarranted. The NSA, CSS, FOIA, Appeal Authority will endeavor to respond to the appeal within 20 working days after receipt, absent any unusual circumstances. If we have misinterpreted your request and you have been affiliated with the NSA in some way as an employee, applicant, or visitor and are looking for records related to those activities, you may submit a signed Privacy Act request to seek that type of information. If you provide a Social Security number, it will assist us with the search for responsive records. The authorities for collecting this information and the use of request information is set forth in the Privacy Act statements provided below. Privacy Act statement here says authority for collecting information requested is contained in 5 U.S.C. and 552A and 5 U.S.C. 552. NSA's blanket routine uses found at 58 Federal Regulation 10.531, 1993 made, as well as the specific uses found in GNSA 02, GNSA 03, and GNSA 10 apply to this information. Authority for requesting your Social Security number is Executive Order 9397. The requested information will be used to assist the agency in locating and disseminating the applicable records to the requester. The disclosure of the requested information to include your SSN is voluntary. However, failure to provide the requested information may delay the processing of your request. Well, that's the message. Just to kill time, I decided I might as well read it in its entirety, and I'll be reading something else in its entirety, and that's my letter of appeal that I am filing with the NSA to tell them how I feel about this and why I still deserve to get the 15 program information, the information for 15 NSA programs about me. And now, after I get a glass of water here, okay, now I will read my appeal in its entirety. This is an appeal that I am making in regards to my FOIA request reply, FOIA case number 75862, which I have included in this appeal request. I am making this appeal because I can assert that the reasons why my FOIA request was denied are reasons that do not and cannot hold water. First off, it says in paragraph 2 of my FOIA request reply that the NSA is authorized to collect, process, and disseminate communications or signals intelligence information for intelligence and counterintelligence purposes. It also says that the NSA does this to prevent and protect against terrorist attacks, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, intelligence activities directed against the United States, international criminal drug activities, and other hostile activities directed against the United States. The NSA does not have authority to do this, and the reasons given to explain why the NSA does this are outright lies, and here's why. The fact that the common people created government means that the common people have individual authority in regards to deciding what government can and can't do. And government was created by the common people for one and only one purpose: to exert by collective force necessary to protect the rights and property of every person under the auspices of that government. The common people never gave the government as individuals the authority to meddle in our private capacities, and the United States government doesn't have authority to pass laws that affect the common people of the several states. If I do not have authority to do something in my individual capacity, then I cannot get together with a group of people and do the same thing, because as individuals, that was an authority we never had. So getting together in a group, like the NSA, doesn't grant that authority any better than it did as individuals. The only time coming together in a group is valid and useful is when that collection of force is needed to protect the rights and property of another individual or group. This implies that a person cannot be charged with a crime unless they cause harm and or intend to cause harm through other persons or property through either negligence or deliberate intent, known as corpus delicti or body of the crime. I do not have authority as an individual to collect, process, and disseminate communications or signals intelligence information for intelligence and counterintelligence purposes on foreign and domestic entities without first obtaining probable cause in order to obtain a warrant to do such activity. Therefore, the NSA also does not have authority to do the same. Further, everybody on planet Earth has the same rights, and where somebody lives has no effect on what rights they have or don't have. Rights are inalienable. Rights are inalienable and cannot be given to people or taken away from people. Otherwise, they wouldn't be rights. They would be privileges. So everyone on planet Earth has the right to be free from NSA collecting, processing, or disseminating communications or intelligence information for intelligence and counterintelligence purposes unless the NSA first obtains probable cause to get a search warrant to do such activity. The NSA is violating people's rights in this regard. The specific argument made to justify the NSA activities are lies. First off, the argument that NSA spying is done to prevent terrorism is a lie because forces within the United States government staged 9/11. Proof of this lies in the fact that 9/11 Commission Senior Counsel John Farmer Jr. wrote in his 2009 book, The Ground Truth, The Story Behind America's Defense of 9/11 that, quote, in the course of our investigation into the national response to the attacks, the 9/11 Commission staff discovered that the official version of what has occurred on the morning of 9/11, that is, what government and military officials had told Congress, the Commission, the media, and the public about who knew what when, was almost entirely and inexplicably untrue. Farmer then said the public had been seriously misled about what occurred during the morning of the attacks, and that at some level of government, at some point in time, there was an agreement not to tell the truth about what happened. The fact that some people in the United States government made an agreement not to tell the truth about what happened on 9/11 and lied to people about what happened on 9/11 makes 9/11 an inside job. Well, he didn't say that. I said that. But it does, for real. He admitted that. He didn't intend to confess to a crime, but he confessed to a crime. But moving on, as I was saying, the rest of my appeal letter here. Further, the fact that the World Trade Center dust samples contained a military-grade explosive known as nanothermite is also proof that 9/11 was an inside job because the only places where nanothermite can be made are laboratories controlled by the United States military, which contain the multi-million-dollar equipment needed to make nanothermite. And the official story of 9/11 insults the intelligence of a fifth grader. And if you believe otherwise, then perhaps this 5-minute video, which defends the official story of 9/11, will change your mind. And then I give the link here to CorbettReport.com, 9/11 A Conspiracy Theory. That video, 9/11 A Conspiracy Theory, is 4 minutes and 56 seconds long. That defends, so to speak, the official story of 9/11 because he pretends that he supports it, but he doesn't. It's a great video. 9/11 is no laughing matter, but if you watch that, you just can't help but chuckle. But at the absurdity of the official story. But anyway, moving on to the rest of my appeal. The fact that Donald Rumsfeld, George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and other people within the U.S. government lied about the existence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq means that the argument that the NSA collects, processes, and disseminates communications or signals intelligence information for intelligence and counterintelligence purposes in order to prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction is a lie. The fact that whistleblowers like Michael Ruppert have exposed that the CIA ships illegal drugs into America means that the argument that the NSA collects, processes, and disseminates communications or signals intelligence information for intelligence and counterintelligence purposes to prevent international criminal drug activities is a lie, and the fact the United States government hasn't sealed the Canadian-Mexican borders means the United States government is not concerned with preventing hostile activities directed against the United States, contrary to what was said in the FOIA reply I was given. It also means that the phrase national security which was mentioned a bunch of times in the FOIA reply, obviously has nothing to do with the security of the nation. The President of the United States does not have authority to sign an executive order which applies to entities outside the executive branch of the United States government. Therefore, Executive Order 1233 and Executive Order 13526, Section 1.4, which are both referenced in the original FOIA reply, cannot legally give the NSA or any non-executive branches of the United States government authority to do or not do anything. This also means that Executive Order 9397 cannot legally be used to force the American people to give their Social Security numbers, as was said in the FOIA's reply's Privacy Act statement. Privacy Act, what a joke name. Okay, and to use such executive orders is hypocritical since Executive Order 13526, Section 1.7, says that government entities are not allowed to classify things in order to conceal government wrongdoing. Julian Assange and Bradley Mann, I can tell you that. But, moving on, and you cannot use the USA Patriot Act to justify things because the USA Patriot Act was passed by the United States government as a result of 9/11, and the fact that 9/11 was an inside job makes the USA Patriot Act unjustified. Even if 9/11 was not an inside job, which it was, the USA Patriot Act would still be illegal because any law that violates rights is an illegal law, and the USA Patriot Act contains provisions which violate people's rights. The FOIA reply also says in paragraph 6 that statutes are used to prevent the information I seek from being released. Well, statutes and all other things we call laws are not actually laws. They are what someone in the government considers to be public policy. Excuse me. And everything I wrote in paragraph 3 of this appeal letter implies that if the common people are not given individual authority to decide if public policy is okay, then that public policy, in this case the statute, becomes null and void. I say the statute is not okay, therefore it is null and void, period. Now that I've explained all this, I trust you NSA folks will stop acting like you think that this is some sort of joke and will actually give me the information I asked for in my original FOIA request. I do not consent to you folks insulting my intelligence, and I do not appreciate you trying to justify doing things Edward Snowden exposed with arguments that, as I have made clear in this appeal, totally fall apart and are based on lies. Oh, and one more thing. You cannot use the argument, if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to fear, because if I actually have something to hide, then I have the right to refuse that I reveal I have something to hide until the entity attempting to prosecute can provide cause that I am hiding something. And under due process procedure of innocent until proven guilty, I cannot be presumed to be guilty of a crime simply because I refuse to reveal that I have something to hide. The burden of proof of proving someone is guilty of a crime totally rests with the entities attempting to prosecute. Period. Well, that's my letter of appeal to the NSA. Hope you guys enjoyed it. That's getting a lot of views on YouTube. Thanks to InfoWars putting that on their site. I really do appreciate them doing that. Kudos to them. Glad this information about how the government and the NSA is insulting people's intelligence and abusing its authority will get out. I hope it wakes people up too. Because we got to take down the NSA. We take down the NSA. We take down the rest of the government. We take down the U.S. government. We take down the Roman Empire, the modern era. And we can ascend into higher consciousness. Happy, happy, joy, joy. But moving on. Since I was talking about the NSA, just for the kick of it, I thought, still got plenty of time on my show here. Glad I came prepared with this. It was leaked. I don't know when exactly it was leaked. The date here says, well, it says here, NSA CSS employees are authorized to share the following points with family and close friends. It says November 22nd, 2013. These are statements that the points that the NSA employees are supposed to make to family and friends and people who think the NSA is brainwashing tactic of sorts, but I want to go over this to see what kind of tactics the real shadow government of America, the NSA, is using to brainwash people into going along with their illegal and totalitarian spying policies. It says here, number one, NSA's mission is of great value to the nation. That's what they want us to think, isn't it? Sub-bullet number one, NSA provides timely, actionable intelligence to political and military customers who use that information in arrange activities from decision-making to military operations. Bullet point number two, warfighter support. NSA has stood shoulder to shoulder with our military and coalition partners, providing timely and actionable data so they can see and take action against the threats they face. Bullet number three, counterterrorism. NSA programs protect Americans and our allies. As an example, they have helped to understand and disrupt 54 terrorist events since 9/11, 25 in Europe, 11 in Asia, and 5 in Africa. 13 of those had a homeland nexus. Okay, act like you understand 9/11 was an inside job, and don't act like you don't, NSA. And act like you understand that the vast majority of terrorist attacks are staged by forces within the government, which are ultimately controlled by the New World Order. So, got to give my 2 cents on that one. In cybersecurity, NSA directly supports the defense of Department of Defense networks by translating actionable intelligence into signatures and instructions that can be used to actively defend the DoD networks. Well, the NSA is the only one that's violating cybersecurity by spying on everything we do over the internet. And whenever they translate something to give it to the Department of Defense, when they translate it, they're obviously obtaining it for themselves. And, well, that enough is to say that the Department of Defense is obviously not has our best interest in heart simply because they work with the NSA. But moving on, number 2 here, NSA performs its missions the right way. Lawful? No, they don't. Not only does it violate the Fourth Amendment, it violates our Creator-granted and Fourth Amendment right. Okay, I'm digressing. Let me start again. NSA performs its mission the right way, lawful, compliant, and in a way that protects civil liberties and privacy. Not what Edward Snowden revealed, you don't. Not what Tom Drake and Bill Binney and J. Kirk Wiebe and Wayne Madsen, all those other NSA whistleblowers revealed, you don't. But moving on, bullet, number 2 sub-bullet, NSA analysts do not decide what topics to work. They respond directly to requirements driven by the President's intelligence priorities, documented in the National Intelligence Priorities Framework and managed by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Yeah, what I say about saying we're not supposed to have the President giving power to other agencies like the NSA and using other organizations within government other than the legislative, executive, and judicial to decide how we do about business, commercial and non-commercial business. So the NSA, many people maybe compartmentalize and not decide what to do, but when they realize what's going on and blow the whistle, things become a problem. Just ask Tom Drake and Ed Snowden. But sub-bullet number 2, NSA does not target U.S. citizens or permanent resident aliens unless their targeting is premised on finding of probable cause to believe that the person is a foreign power, the agent of a foreign power. NSA's activities are governed by and constrained by law and policy. We operate under oversight by all 3 branches of government, legislative, judicial, and executive. You wouldn't know the government has only 3 branches, all the other agencies that it works for. And, of course, they are spying on us without probable cause. Ed Snowden revealed they spy on everything, and I don't know how they can lie in our face. Well, they think they can lie right in our face and get away with it. Because they're the NSA. They're tyrannical. They think they can do that. But moving on, NSA does not and will not steal industry secrets in order to give U.S. companies a competitive advantage. Yeah, that's what you want us to think. You steal everything. You spy on everything, so of course you steal the secrets. Yet you are stealing them. You're not spying us for our safety. You are stealing. This is theft. And you are not doing it to give U.S. You say you will not steal industry secrets in order to give U.S. companies a competitive advantage. Well, the U.S. companies are helping you go along with the NSA spying. Microsoft, Verizon, Google, and everything else that goes with it, as Edward Snowden revealed, they're going along with it. So you are stealing secrets, and you want us to think that you will not do it to give people an advantage. We obviously can't trust you now, so how can we trust you in the future? Next bullet, NSA does not and will not demand changes by any vendor to any product, nor does it have any authority to demand such change. Yet you also don't have any authority to spy on us like this, because the common people say it's not okay. I, as an individual, say it's not okay. And even if I have something to hide, I have the right to refuse to show it, not that you acknowledge that. You do things without probable cause. But it's another does not and will not. You do, and you want us to think you will not. Can't trust the NSA. But moving on to number 3. You see, it really is nothing I can say here because it's so plainly obvious a lie. I got to say something to elaborate on it, or people might try to discredit me by saying you didn't elaborate on this. But some of them there's really nothing to say because it's just speechless, because you know it's a lie because of what Snowden revealed. Number 3, NSA performs its missions exceptionally well. We strive to be the best that we can be, because that's what America requires as part of its defense in a dangerous world. Yeah, a dangerous world that's controlled by governments that stage things like 9/11 to justify war and tyranny. Your job of doing things, spying on everything, is designed to blackmail. It's designed to predict future events, to engage in illegal insider trading. And it's also designed to keep whistleblowers from coming out. That's what you want to do, because that's what you did. You hammered whistleblowers like Drake and tried to hammer whistleblowers like Snowden. You did hammer Bill Binney, too. Feel sorry for him. He had the gun pointed on him while he was in the shower. He said he was taking a shower, and then agents raided his home and pointed a gun at him for blowing the whistle on NSA corruption. And the NSA does not want us to know who the real dangers of the world are. Signals intelligence improves our knowledge. This is the bullet here. Signals intelligence improves our knowledge and understanding of terrorist plans and intentions. It is one of the most powerful tools we have to protect our citizens, soldiers, and allies. Well, like I said, 9/11 was an inside job, so terrorists are the people in government, and the NSA is playing dumb, acting like they don't understand it. Moving on to the next bullet. Fundamentally, NSA and partner foreign intelligence agencies work together to protect the world's citizens from a range of threats like terrorism, weapons proliferation, and cyber attacks. Terrorists and weapons proliferators use the same technology many of us do, such as email. That is why the U.S. government compels providers to provide webmail for these carefully identified threats. This is the same stuff they said in my appeal. And terrorism, like I said a million times already, 9/11 was an inside job. Weapons proliferation, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq was a lie. Same thing with Syria. And cyber attacks. Government wants to shut down our access to the internet so we can't use it to get information. Just like how they shut down YouTube in China. We don't want that to happen in America. If they do, we'll lose a lot. We'll lose as much as if we would if we lost guns, so we'd still lose a lot. Give that right to bear arms, give that right to use the internet to expose information. And, terrorists use email all right. Terrorists in the government. All right, moving on. Number 4. The people who work for the NSA are loyal Americans with extra skills who make sacrifices to help protect the freedoms we all cherish. Yeah, we're Snowden made a sacrifice to help protect the freedoms we all cherish. Bullet 1. NSA brings together the best linguists, analysts, mathematicians, engineers, and computer scientists in the United States to tackle some of the hardest problems in the world. These employees, civilian, military, and contractors, are public servants who do their work knowing that the innovation and achievements of serve the nation but will never be publicly recognized. More than 6,000 NSA cryptologists have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. 20 have died in the line of duty helping our troops accomplish their missions. Well, it's nice to know that some of the civilian, military, and contractors are public servants who are willing to do their work and blow the whistle on NSA corruption. And one of the hardest problems in the world was Snowden doing that. But moving on to this other bullet that I mentioned here, Iraq and Afghanistan, using those as wars justifications to go to war, the weapons of mass destruction and terrorism. Dude, I went over this already. I don't need to go through it again. The men and women of NSA, this is the next bullet. The men and women of the NSA take an oath to defend the Constitution. Pardon me for sneezing. The men and women of the NSA take an oath to defend the Constitution. Not Fourth Amendment. As private citizens themselves, NSA employees are actively aware of the importance of upholding the Fourth Amendment, and they uphold it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying right now, folks. How can they make bullet points that are outright lies and expect people to go along with this? Because people are too stupid. Well, some people are. Number 5, NSA is committed to increase transparency, public dialogue, and faithful implementation of any changes required by our overseers. So, if you care about increased transparency, why did you hassle Snowden and Drake and Binney and Weeby and everybody else? You don't really have much oversight. The Fourth Amendment is your oversight, but for some reason you don't want it. Because you want to hammer whistleblowers, you want to engage in insider trading, you want to keep us in a state of fear and helplessness, control us by spying on us. You don't care about transparency, public dialogue, and faithful implementation. Bullet 1. We are committed to the protection of our people, our allies, and civil liberties and privacy. We will be more transparent in discussing the business of NSA, the work what we do, the authorities under which we operate, and the governments over them to ensure that Americans understand NSA. Want Americans to understand NSA, act like these shouldn't even exist because we're only supposed to have an executive, judicial, and legislative branch of government. Only those three. That's it. No sub-agency. That's the only thing I understand with the NSA. It shouldn't exist. And it's tyrannical with its spying, which is not about safety and everything about tyranny. All right, next bullet. The President and senior administration officials are reviewing NSA's programs and we stand ready to execute their policy guidance with our... I seem to recall Obama saying that after Snowden made his leaks, he said that, well, you have to understand, when we have to have a balance between liberty and security, you can't possibly expect to have full liberty and freedom, and we need to have some security. I mean, they're obviously in your face. I have no doubt Obama was deliberately trying to make a mockery of Benjamin Franklin's popular quote of, those who give up liberty for security. I don't know the exact quote, word for word. There isn't an exact way he said it, but the context was, if you give up your liberty for security, then you will get neither liberty nor security. Definitely true. He said that because he understood that the government will say, we're going to take your rights to keep you safe, when in reality it's a way of brainwashing people and supporting global totalitarian government, which is their goal. And Obama is making a mockery of Franklin there. So, moving on to sub-bullet number, the last sub-bullet. We encourage the American public to work with us to define the way ahead in balancing transparency and national security. We embrace public dialogue. Yeah, I didn't embrace my public dialogue with my FOIA request, and you are not balancing transparency and national security. You are trying to brainwash us into giving up liberty for security so you can impose global totalitarian government. Oh my God, I just said that a couple minutes ago. How pathetic that the NSA thinks I am this stupid. They actually give this list out to people. They're basically saying, we want you to wake up, but we think you're too stupid to wake up. So, you know what? I don't know what the NSA is thinking. Who knows what the NSA is thinking if they think we're this stupid. But that concludes all of the stuff that I came prepared to talk about. So I guess for the final 38 minutes or so, again, if anybody wants to call in, I'd love to speak to people. The number is 646-478-4747. Didn't expect much of an audience today because it's a holiday, but I guess I'll start talking about something that we just recently experienced. Christmas, the holiday season, some say it's still upon us. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year part means the holiday season is still within us, I guess. So, since we just had Christmas, hey, great, brings the family together. People get to give to other people. It'd be nice if nobody gave to anybody, because the people that buy the most expensive gifts are the ones losing out. My three brothers and I actually have birthdays on 3 consecutive days, April 6th, April 7th, April 8th. I'm April 7th. It seems like an unbelievable coincidence, but I think the simple answer is my parents had sex at the same time, and that caused us to have consecutive birthdays. But ignoring that, the reason I bring this up is because we made an agreement on our birthdays not to buy anything for any of us, because the brother who buys the most expensive gift will be the one losing out. And they agreed, hey, that's a great idea. Let's not buy anything for anybody. So we just let our birthdays go by, not buying anything for anyone. But I decided Christmas, we might as well buy things for each other then. Funny how my brothers didn't buy anything for me. I still love them. I bought them some lottery tickets. Actually, lottery tickets are the only thing I buy for anybody. I don't gamble. Never do, never will. Unless maybe the money I give is for some sort of a really, really good cause. They say benefits older Pennsylvanians for the lottery, but in the Pennsylvania lottery anyway. But I don't really know how much of that money really does go to older Pennsylvanians. But the tickets themselves, they do hold a chance to hold some magic in them. Hopefully one of the days I'll buy a jackpot ticket for someone. That's about the only gift I buy for people. Either that or gift certificates. Gift certificates make things really simple. I don't know what you want. I don't care what you want. But I'm just going to give you this so you can get whatever you want. I think that really comes from the heart, if you look at it that way. So gift certificates would be my other choice of gift. But the thing about Christmas is there are some flaws. I mean, for one, Santa Claus. Don't let anyone tell you that the word Santa comes from saint. It doesn't. It comes from Satan. Santa Claus was created by New World Order forces and used by New World Order forces as a means of brainwashing and dumbing down children, making children believe in something that is just a fairy tale and teaching parents and families that it's okay to lie to each other. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm in favor of telling kids that Santa Claus doesn't exist. Some guy in Canada was arrested for telling kids Santa Claus doesn't exist last year. That guy should be treated a hero. He was arrested at a mall. should be treated as a hero who's doing kids a favor. And, well, other than that, ignoring the whole Santa Claus thing, the story of Jesus. Well, the Zeitgeist Movement, David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, Santos Bonacci, the story of Jesus is just a metaphor for the sun going across the zodiac. Yeah, it's right there. Just type in something on the internet, Jesus, zodiac, sun, something will pop up showing how the whole story of Jesus is just a metaphor for that. And I guess I might as well take a little bit of time to go in this just to enlighten people. It all starts with Jesus dying. Well, there really is no specific starting point, I guess, except for the spring solstice, the spring equinox, would be the starting point. They say that's the real start of the year, and throughout the course of the year, into summer, Jesus, the sun, gets more and more power, and then starts to lose his power as you go down to fall. And that's what fall comes from, the fall of the sun's power. And then on the winter solstice is the day he dies. And then 3 days where the sun is on the same degree. And then on the 25th is when he rises again. The sun rises again. That's the after the winter solstice, when the sun had died at its shortest day of the year. Then it goes back up and gets bigger and bigger until it gets a spring equinox again. I guess I made it a little confusing when I couldn't figure out which time you start, but Santos Bonacci has explained that the spring equinox should be the real start of the year, and the Gregorian calendar is in many ways designed to screw around with time, which is designed to suppress our consciousness. But that's only the gist of it. There's a lot more to it in regards to how you can show that the story of Jesus is just a metaphor for the sun going across the zodiac. It's not to say that there wasn't some entity that existed on planet Earth during the time of Jesus. Andrew Bartzis said in his Creating 5D YouTube channel interview that's on the Creating 5D YouTube channel, if anybody wants to see it, recommend it to everybody. It's a 20-part series. He mentioned that there was a Jesus character who traveled to all different places around the world. And I'm thinking that this Jesus character was the Emmanuel that Swiss ET contacting Billy Meyer spoke of. Emmanuel, Billy Meyer says, was the son of a man begotten by a Pleiadian Nordic extraterrestrial. Billy Meyer gets contact with the Pleiadian Nordics, and a Pleiadian Nordic extraterrestrial and an earthling woman, a human named Mary, had sex and gave birth to Emmanuel. And the story of Jesus, in addition to being designed as a metaphor for the zodiac in regards to teachings and all that, the story of Jesus' teachings is a metaphor for this guy Emmanuel. Was Emmanuel the Jesus that Andrew Bartzis spoke of? Who knows? I don't know. Andrew Bartzis didn't actually feel comfortable in answering a Jesus question when I tried to ask him about it at the N5D Return to Atlantis conference. So I guess it's a sensitive subject that he doesn't want to talk about. I can fully respect that. But it just goes to show that Christmas, even though it brings people together to give together and eat together at the dinner table with their Christmas ham and Christmas turkey and whatever to fill up their bellies with joy and good food that you could thank the Creator for giving you if you truly believe in saying grace. It is based on lies. Fictional story of Jesus that's based on the teachings of some guy and is designed to be the layout of the zodiac in plain sight. It's pretty sad to know that there's a lie behind a lot of things. Well, there's a lie about a lot of things in this world. It's the way the Matrix has been designed. It's been designed to not know the true nature of reality, the true nature of ourselves, our true infinite nature, that we are everything that is, was, and ever will be. But with that being said, I guess I might as well get into what I think will be going on to 2014 and the future beyond. So I get a quick glass of water here. Yes, 2014. Well, I've said it on my show before. I say you shouldn't obsess about it, but it's kind of ironic because I seem to obsess about it a lot. Because I always say, Andromeda Council contactee Tolek, said that we will ascend into 4D Earth in January 2014, the exact date unknown, and then I always say that, and then I always say, don't obsess about that. If you obsess about that happening, you'll lose touch with reality, because if you keep thinking that we'll be saved by ascension, you'll never be able to get anything done. So I'm the one obsessing about it, but I think it's worth saying yet again anyway, and I have no doubt I'll be discussing it with Alfred Weber next week, because he did about 6 hours worth of interviews on his Alfred Lebermont Weber YouTube channel for Exopolitics TV with Tolek. And they did, among other things, mention January 2014 being the date of 4D Ascension, the time period. And I guess we'll be talking about that at some point in the interview. Try not to obsess about it too much. But like I said, it's a good idea not to believe that that's going to happen to us, because if you believe that that's going to happen, then you will almost certainly lose touch with reality. And we don't want people losing touch with reality, now do we? Certainly not in this time period, because making reference to Andrew Bartzis again, Andrew Bartzis has said before that a certain group of entities that play the role of a jokester and a jokester race have decided to no longer pick on the common people and the rest of the benevolent people of planet Earth. And they will now be picking on the malevolent guys, the New World Order, and I guess other malevolent forces. But Andrew Bartzis said that this will cause the New World Order to look like the Three Stooges. They will look like a bunch of idiots, because these jokester races will be picking on the New World Order, these jokester entities, and they will cause the New World Order to have things like leaks coming out, secrets exposed, conspiracies revealed, and this is going to wake people up, expand people's consciousness, and make the New World Order look like the Three Stooges look intelligent. And Andrew Bartzis says he looks forward to this. I certainly look forward to this. I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't look forward to this. But the key is we got to take advantage of this. I intend to make the most of it, and I intend to help make that happen by doing what I can to expose secrets. Am I doing that? Oh, yeah. Eddie Craig's video, Secrets Police Don't Want You to Know. That video I am still posting on police department Facebook pages. I made a mission out of posting that police department, that video called Secrets Police Don't Want You to Know. It's on YouTube. It's about 2.5 hours long. Totally worth your time to watch, because it exposes how to get out of paying traffic tickets by making it clear that you're not in commerce when you're driving. You're just traveling. You're exercising your right to travel. And I post that video on every police department Facebook page in existence, and I'm trying to do that, and it's gotten me banned about 50 times off Facebook. I keep having to make new accounts. I guess they don't want that information being seen, so they keep marking me as a spammer. The police probably do, or at this point, I guess Facebook, because I can only put on 15 police department pages at a time. Facebook says you must log in, and then I do a security check by typing in a CAPTCHA thing, and then they ask for a phone number, and if I type in my own phone number, it says this number's been used too much. So I guess they're monitoring me in that sense, because I'm exposing too many secrets and becoming too much of a rabble rouser. But I guess if anybody wants to help me, that Secrets Police Don't Want You to Know video, which can be found on the Alex Jones channel, upload that to police department Facebook pages. Help me in my crusade to wake people up and bring down the New World Order by keeping money out of their pockets, by charging us with commerce-related crimes when we're not actually in commerce. And that we could expose a driver license scam, that you don't need a license, registration, insurance, or license plate on your car unless you're a commercial driver, and the transportation laws only apply to commercial drivers, then that could keep a lot of money out of the hands of the New World Order, who relies on and so do the police. The police rely on this to a great extent. It's absolutely pathetic that all the police departments and car insurance companies would collapse if everybody took advantage of Eddie Craig's information in that video he's the presenter in that video, to keep money out of their hands. It's absolutely sick that they take all this money from us through a scam like this, and that's what keeps the control system going. So we'll talk about that with Eddie, hopefully when I see him in a couple of weeks on the 22nd, unless he can't come on for some reason. So what else do I expect for the future? Well, if we really will have our consciousness expanded, then I guess keep working hard to ascend and maybe make David Icke a celebrity, because he said that 2016 is when he expects the great consciousness transformation to occur. And Franco De Nicola, who I will be having on my show, he was one of the guest callers on In5D Radio yesterday when I called in. He was also talking about how we will ascend into 4D Earth early this year, but he didn't make it seem like we'll actually be true 4D humans. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this. I don't want to take what he said out of context. I guess I'll talk about this with him more when I have him on my show, but he talked about how early this year we'll go into 4D. Some people will remain in 3D. We will keep going over time, past 2015, past 2016. We will keep ascending our consciousness. We'll keep rising. The 3D people will eventually become 4D people, and eventually the 4D people will become 5D people. And when we finally hit 5D, there will, I believe he said, still be some people lost in 4D, but there will be no 3D people left. And he said he expects that to be around when David Icke expects it to be, around 2016, 2017. And again, Tolek, not that I choose to obsess about what he said, but he talked about how the reptilian aliens, they will not be able to exist in the ascension, the ascended level, the ascended dimension that will reside in when we do ascend into 4D or 5D Earth, whenever that may be able to come with us. So we'll be free. We will no longer have any money, we'll still have to work, but we'll be able to work for energy and not use money, and our bodies will be more constructive, light, sex will be more easy. And, well, I don't really care to get into details of this too much, but just let it come with the flow, let it happen. Don't obsess about ascending. Do your part, meditate, wake people up to conspiracies, corruption, the fact that you're infinite consciousness, anything else that can wake people up. And who knows, maybe we'll make Tolek a celebrity within the next month if we do enough to ascend. And maybe we'll make, if that doesn't happen, we'll make David Icke and Franco De Nicola celebrities when we ascend into 4D or 5D in 2016, 2017. But one thing I want to get into about that, why will we ascend into 4D or why will we ascend into 5D? Why is there a debate? Well, talked about this with Laura Eisenhower, talked about this with George Kavaslis when I had them on my show. Laura seems to think that the reason we'll ascend straight into 5D is because 4D has a clutter, a hodgepodge of malevolent entities, and we'll be able to go past that. That kind of contradicts what George Kavaslis said about how the malevolent reptilians and the malevolent greys and the malevolent entities that are doing diabolical things to us, they actually come from the second dimension of consciousness, but they impose their will under the guise of lower fourth dimensional entities. If I ever talk to George again, I'd like to ask him how that's possible for a second dimensional entity to do that. Laura said if George is right, great. I mean, he's been wrong before. I'm sure he was referencing George being wrong about the 2012 winter solstice and the 2013 spring equinox being the time period when much of humanity ascends into 5D. George said he changed his opinion on that in 2011, late 2011, because he felt a shift in the timeline. I spoke to him about this with my interview, but he said he still wants to talk about that. I'll get to that in a moment. But as regards to why some people say we'll go into 4D, some say we'll go into 5D. Dolores Cannon said that the reason we'll go into 5D is because time is an illusion all along. The only difference between third and fourth dimension is that time is an illusion and the fourth dimension is fully exploited. There is no time in the fourth dimension, but since time was an illusion to begin with, that means we will go straight from 3D to 5D. Not exactly sure why she believes that. I mean, some people have said the fourth dimensional level is actually really complicated, it has multi-layers within it, so I don't understand how she could say the only difference with between the third and the fourth dimension is the absence of time. But I don't know, maybe she's going by another timeline. She also says that there is a second Earth that was forming in 2003. Earth had split into two Earths. One was 5D, and this one is, I guess it is. This one is already at 4D, but the core is at 4D, but the rest of the Earth needs to transition over time from 3D to 4D. According to Tolek, that will happen this month, and Franco De Nicola said more specifically it'll be progressed. But whatever the case, hopefully we'll go into 5D. If we have to go into 4D, great, so be it. I mean, it's impossible not to go to 5D without going into 4D first. I mean, one would call that a no-brainer. Whatever the debate may be, hopefully it'll happen sooner the better, and we'll do our part. I'll do my part. You must do your part. Do your part. Wake people up. And one thing I wanted to get into about how to wake people up, don't be afraid, people, to go out and say things that might discredit you. Because I was talking about this a couple minutes ago about George Kavaslis saying that even though he ultimately turned out to be wrong about his prediction that on December 21st, 2012, the Earth will rise up on its axis and point straight up into the cosmos. It's 23 degrees or what, tilt or whatever the degree is, will straight up to become 0 degrees, and the Earth will eventually shed its skin and become a fifth dimensional star by 2013, the spring equinox, March 2013. He was wrong about that. He said he felt a shift in the timeline in late 2011, which caused him to change his opinion on that. And he said that even though he was wrong, he wants to continue talking about that in his talks because, as he said, it gives the New World Order and the malevolent forces a lot of ammunition to use against him, credit him, which will bring them out in the open and eventually weaken them. So, folks, the key here is don't be afraid to give out information that might discredit you and might be wrong. If it turns out to be wrong and might come back to discredit you, so what? They're wasting their energy and putting themselves out in the open to try to discredit you. They're basically saying, well, this guy who fights for good said one little thing wrong. They'll eventually speed up the wake-up process of people, which will cause them to realize, hey, the people trying to discredit, they're the bad guys. So I'm not afraid to say things that will discredit me. I mean, recently I've written some articles on planetinfowars.com and David Icke's website forum that contradicts some things I said in the past. I mean, it's perfectly understandable that's going to happen. But am I going to get rid of those previous articles that I wrote that eventually turned out to be wrong? No, of course not. Let them use that to discredit me. Give them as much ammunition as possible. So they will come out and to try to discredit me and in the process bring themselves out in the open. That's what we need to do. Wake people up. Don't be afraid of it discredits you. And please, people, get over your fear of what other people think. I mean, I was talking about that mocking Hillary Clinton earlier when she was getting that medal in Philly. There were a few times during that mockery when I was exposing the fact that Hillary is a shape-shifting reptilian, as Arizona Wilder and other people have exposed. Arizona Wilder said in her Revelations of a Mother Goddess program with David Icke, the documentary was Revelations of a Mother Goddess, she said, I saw Hillary Clinton before I knew she was Hillary Clinton. Pretty creepy statement, isn't it? And I was mocking Hillary about that, calling her I was saying things like, you know all about the extraterrestrial cover-up because you are an extraterrestrial cover-up. You are a reptilian alien in disguise. You are an Illuminati Grand Dame. You are a child-sacrificing Satanist who blackmails Obama and didn't care that your husband cheated on him. Well, that was a case where people would think I'm crazy. But do I care? No. In fact, after I had shouted all that nasty stuff about Hillary for about 20 minutes while she was speaking, one woman who was a Hillary supporter said to me, I'll be happy to buy you a train ticket to get out of here because I do not like you. And my immediate response was, what other people think about me is none of my business or concern. Well, hope that knocked some sense into her, even after I was doing all that screaming at Hillary for exposing her as a fraud and exposing government corruption, conspiracies in the process, all the ignorant, gullible, Hillary-supporting sheeple. They applauded when Hillary finished her speech. Totally ignored everything I said. How sad, how pathetic. I did all I could do, and yet those people just couldn't be woken up anyway. Can't say I didn't try. Also can't say I didn't try when I was in London this past October, October 2012, when the day before David Icke gave his Remember Who You Are talk at Wembley, which I was at. I shouted at the top of my lungs in front of Buckingham Palace. I shouted, Queen's a lizard. About 60% of the people were laughing. The remaining 40% had a look on their face that suggested they had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. My response to doing what I did was, sorry, I had to do it. It was right in front of the palace. I couldn't resist. And then a couple of people in front of me who had a look on their face of, what were you talking about? I looked at them and I said, you don't know what Queen's a Lizard means? You got some research to do. Well, I'm glad to see a lot of people got a kick out of that. But the point is that's a great way to wake people up. A lunatic shouting Queen's a Lizard in front of the palace. Someone actually said this when I told about my experience on David Icke's website forum. They said, you can't expect to wake people up by saying to them, read a 700-page David Icke book or watch a 10-hour David Icke talk. I mean, people aren't going to do that. People don't have the attention spans. Many people don't read as much nowadays. Jay Leno said a couple years ago that I think it was in 2010, 1 out of 3 people did not read a single book throughout the course of an entire year, or even try to read a book. I don't know if that number is dropping or increasing. I mean, if you're not a reader, you're not a reader, but the problem is some people that are readers are trying not to read and doing other things, and a book is the best medium of information, but the problem is a lot of people don't want to read, so you can't expect people to watch an Icke presentation or an Icke book where you're exposed to this stuff. So how do you wake people up? Shout Queen's a Lizard in front of the palace, because some people are sure to want to Google that at some point in the future. Google Queen's a Lizard, or should I say start page Queen's a Lizard. You don't want to use Google because Google's connected to the NSA. And after they do that, they'll find some things that may convince them, hey, I know what this guy's talking about. We're being controlled by extraterrestrials who feed off of our fear energy. Yeah, folks, there's the key. The control system that controls us, that we need to wake up out of, to ascend into higher consciousness, whenever that may be in 2014 or to 2016 or whatever, we need to not be afraid to do things. We need to be willing to go out in the open, and don't be afraid of what other people think, because as long as we have fear, or fear of what other people think is probably the worst prison ever, but any fear, that's going to be a problem, because fear is how they keep us down. Fear, you don't want to speak out. You feed them, because these reptilian aliens, they literally feed off of the energy that you emit. You can't see the energy because it exists outside visible light. But they have found a way to feed off of this fear energy and the blood that they drink. If they can, children's blood they love, if they can really make the child feel really scared or something, it will pour chemicals into the blood that will give the blood-drinking reptoids a high. And many children, as Alex Collier has exposed, many of the missing children on planet Earth will never see the light of day because the people that kidnap them work for the reptile aliens who feed off of children, especially children, but even adults, they feed off of their energy. Children just provide the greatest source of energy. How do I feel being part of a species that's viewed as cattle by a species of higher consciousness? Well, are they of higher consciousness? Maybe they come from the lower fourth, maybe they come from the second, who knows? They're fear-based, though, so if they come from the lower fourth, it's got to be at the very, very bottom of the lower fourth, because their fear can't exist in the fourth dimension, but exists in a different way. But anyway, do I enjoy being part of a species that's viewed as cattle by reptilians? Well, it makes me want to work a little bit harder, makes me more passionate about things. There's no question about that. I mean, if I was not viewed as cattle by some species, what would there to do in life? Well, you'd ascend to higher consciousness, so among other things, you can read thoughts and know more things and access information. You could access Akashic records like Andrew Bartzis can. We all have that ability. It's just that some of us, like him, are good at getting it out, and doing other things. Well, if you could do that in higher consciousness, sure, I'd love to do it, but too much of an easy way through life, because it's just love. Don't you want to have a little bit of a challenge, folks? Don't you want to live in this third dimensional density where you're put to the test to know that you're worthy enough to get higher? I mean, we all chose to be here, but we chose it for a reason. Everybody's got their own reasons. I think my reason was to observe, to expand consciousness, to expose corruption, to make people realize they're infinite. I mean, I'm just starting off at the streets level, just a regular guy living in the Philly suburbs. I do hope this radio can get out to more people. I don't care about fame. I care about information. I don't care about what other people think. That's why I created this. And that's why I'm going to need your help, people. I want you to stop feeding them. Simply realizing them that they feed off your fear energy. That helped me realize that I shouldn't be in fear, because if I'm in fear, I'm going to feed them. So realize that, think, oh, no more fear, no more energy for them. I think that'll help people overcome their fears. I mean, some other fears, like a fear of roller coasters, that's a completely different fear in and of itself. That was a fear I overcame when I rode on the roller coasters at Six Flags Great Adventure. Glad I was able to overcome that fear, but that's a completely different case. Just because someone is afraid of riding a roller coaster does not mean that they're not going to be afraid of exposing government corruption, and vice versa. Fear is very powerful at this density. It still exists in the fourth dimension, from what I've heard from consciousness and ET experts and whatnot. Once you get to the fifth, there is no fear, but from there to the seventh, this is from Silver Legion contactee to Noth, people will be strictly love-based, the entities, but they won't necessarily use love to the fullest potential they can. They won't be necessarily be selfish about it, but there's other ways they can use it for. But once you get up to the seventh and above, sorry if you can't imagine this. I certainly can't, because I'm just a third-dimensional human. Well, I'm infinite consciousness, but I'm forced to reside as a third-dimensional human. It's hard to envision this, but just to try to give the best description I can, once you get to the seventh dimension and above, there is no selfishness or unwillingness to use love to its full capacity. And while it's impossible not to have a little bit of fear in this dimension, you might as well not go through life thinking that that's the case. Because even though things may come along, you got to move on. Entities may toy around with your mind like they toyed around with George Kavaslis' mind, but that's to be expected. It's only going to push you all the further. So, I love being trapped in this third-dimensional density for as long as I need to be trapped in it. And I hope all of you folks will actually be able to see some good in being stuck in this Saturn moon matrix. I don't really have time to get into what that means for those of you who are new listeners. Just type Saturn moon matrix in YouTube and you'll find out what that's all about. That's what we're trapped in. Be glad we got a chance to be trapped in this, to learn what we truly can be and learn our full potential. But I guess I might as well conclude this show, got about 7 minutes left, by talking about what's going to be going on in the coming weeks. Next week's guest, as I said, will be Alfred Weber. He will be calling in to discuss a lot of things. He is a polymath of sorts. He was a colleague of Laura Eisenhower, by the way, but I saw him at the Philadelphia Free Your Mind Conference in April 2013 and talked about a couple things. He gave a great presentation about life on Mars and alien history on Earth, among other things. And I saw some presentations he gave on chemtrails and all, and we'll be talking about that, life on Mars, chemtrails, and time travel too. In the Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura episode, he talked about how time travel is the deepest, darkest state secret, and even more so than extraterrestrials. That's a pretty bold statement. I'd like to get into that with him, why extraterrestrials are not the deepest, darkest state secret. It's actually time travel. I mean, I understand why, because Andrew Bartzis has talked all about how to use time travel to manipulate our reality. Certainly something that needs a lot of research done on it, because there's many things that are made poorly understood. Even Laura told me time travel into the past is kind of tricky to understand, but we'll be talking about that. If anybody wants to become an expert on anything, as I said on my last show, listen to all of the videos on Alfred Weber's YouTube channel. That's Alfred Lebremont Weber. Weber spelled W-E-B-R-E. I'm going to ask him if the W is pronounced like a V. I'm sure it is, but he doesn't say it like that. But he'll be my guest next week on the 8th, talking about a lot of all sorts of hodgepodge of different things. So I hope you guys can tune in for that. I do hope, and of course we'll be talking about Tolek. Hope Tolek's right. Won't obsess about it. But hope you guys have a great 2014. Whatever happens, happens. whatever will be, que sera, sera. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure that Andrew Bartz's claim about the jokester race making the New World Order come out will come true. It'll be entertaining, but at the same time, we got to take it seriously. Just like how the extreme absurdity of the official story of 9/11 insults the intelligence of a 10-year-old. It makes you want to chuckle just hearing about it. You have to take it seriously and understand this is not a laughing matter. This is a serious matter. And so is the process of ascension. So, I guess I'll call that show a wrap. Welcome to 2014. May we have a love-filled and not a fear-filled experience throughout the future. And namaste, everyone. Namaste.